So here you set the bar pretty high, mate. He did a bit of good prep for this. That's good, and I didn't. But you know, you set an agenda there, and you brought up a lot of the really important things. And you know, so sort of, and the biggest brushstroke seems to be about creativity, and that seems to be about is a kind of personal process that then involves other people. It involves other people because your creativity has probably has more value if it affects other people, and your creativity probably grows stronger if you utilize other people and involve other people. And some people work in a very sort of isolated, personal way. You were sort of talking about working in groups versus working on their own, and that maybe the Tesla guy needed to go into his own little chamber finally. But if he hadn't have been sort of interacting with the world and the world's needs, he probably wouldn't have motivated himself to kind of come up with something like that. So kind of understanding how much you need to make your creativity a kind of personal process versus kind of how much you need to, you know, rely on and enjoy working with others. And, you know, the idea of a team can become really important. And like, you know, I'm working in film where obviously there's loads of people, and one of the things that happens is that new technology affects how many people and how you work with those people and things. You touched a bit on that. So new technologies can affect your creative process, your team affect your process, and understanding, being comfortable with those people around you and getting the best out of them. You know, the human interaction of dealing with the other people that you need to kind of get from A to B, you know, I think becomes really important, unless you're one of those kinds of creatives who can just sit in a room like Da Vinci seemed to do for part of his day and just paint on his own. And that's cool, because then all you need to do is have your paintbrush and the person in front of you, and you know, you get on with it. But I obviously have been working in this sort of medium where you need like loads of people. So I've become quite tuned into the ideas that you know, you've got to really get the best from the people around you. You've got to get the best from yourself as well, which is to do with sort of really understanding yourself and your own motivations and what stimulates you. So that might be looking at the masters, which you touched on as well. You know, sort of thinking about who was fucking brilliant at what you do, yeah, and studying them. Who was the James Brown of your field? And, you know, what can you learn from them? Why should you be, you know, envious of their abilities, you know, but at the same time, you know, envy, ego, motivation, not get sort of eaten up by that, and also sort of give yourself the space to enjoy your own angle on it and appreciate that you are, you know, inevitably bringing something new to it, yourself, your experiences. None of us live in a cultural vacuum. All of us are influenced and individual people who, therefore, have got a new take. So, you know, what is your new take? What is it that you bring to your sphere? What is it that you want to share? How can you nurture that and celebrate that? How can you make yourself a productive, your most productive, if that's what you want to be? How can you make yourself less productive? How can you get the meaning? How can you get the balance between just kind of fixating on success and creativity and people saying, well done, that was really great, versus maybe, you know, your family, whether your parents, your children, your friends, you know, living. I've definitely learned, having gone through different periods where I was just like so busy that there wasn't much space for doing anything else, that isn't necessarily the best way to nurture your soul. And that, you know, these things that become kind of, have become sometimes sort of self-help cliches can be resonant, like getting the balance in your life. And looking after yourself will then sort of make you function better. So if you're really ambitious and you want to like do your best work, you're going to have to work out how to look after yourself. And, you know, working with all those kind of rock stars and, you know, people who really push themselves and kind of go out there. And, you know, you see the people who are just on the edge and in tatters, you know, and, you know, living life too well might, you know, if you get really high, you might sort of kind of benefit, that might benefit your creativity, you know, at different moments. It might also burn you out. And you might also end up sort of not really being able to be your best. But that's a kind of personal thing. High on anything, high on drugs, high on food, high on driving your car too fast. You know, there are lots of different highs. And you kind of seek stimulation to inspire you, and you have to be kind of measured in how you stimulate yourself, so that it is actually as functional as possible for you. And you end up getting good results, I think. What else? What other great things did you bring up? Team, self, imagination, creativity, competition. You know, we talked about that sort of, you know, pitting yourself against others to kind of make you, push you further. Ego, specializing, you know. So the balance between the kind of Renaissance man or woman and the specialist, you know, because like, yes, it's cool to not like be in a bubble, and you know, a few people have said, haven't they, you know, like if they're you know, like when I was doing lots and lots of music videos, you know, say when I went to America to do lots of music videos, I definitely remember thinking, well, what I must do is watch less American music videos, you know, and more other things. But by then I specialised. I knew what American music videos looked like. I mean, that's quite generalised kind of way of saying it, but you know what I mean, you know, genres and what's happening out there in the marketplace. You've got to know what's going on. You've got to know who what your competition is if you want to push your way into having an opportunity to express yourself. But at the same time, I would say that it's very useful to go outside of your area to inspire you into doing things that are new. Otherwise, you might just be regurgitating what you're seeing in front of you, which will feel kind of powerful for a bit, but then pretty quickly you will realise, possibly, everyone's different, that you know, that it's not as exciting as bringing something genuinely kind of fresh to the table. And in fact, this idea of kind of mixing it up. So specialising is good. You kind of have to know where your skills lie and where you lie within the marketplace and all that. But at the same time, you probably shouldn't become too tunnel vision. Otherwise, you kind of are going to just regurgitate. And the opposite of tunnel vision is fusion in a way. And so kind of this notion of sort of what has loosely been termed sometimes postmodernism, and this idea of kind of combining traditionally separate disciplines in a way that just somehow works to your mind, you know, can be very useful. And in an effort to be original, you know, originality.
Door is open.
Originality, which, you know, this guy, when he did the original thoughts that just kind of grab all of our imaginations and become relevant and useful, you know, because no one did it before, yeah, that's harder and harder. And especially like when, you know, you might have kind of said, oh, I was original because I took myself to that culture where they hadn't seen it before. I mean, you know, things like the internet kind of make everything cross over so much. We're all the young kids have access to the same kind of material in a way that was never the case before. So one route through to being fresh and new and innovative and bringing something new to the market is to start combining stuff that haven't been combined before. In some ways, at different times, I've almost seen that as a actual kind of science-like equation. You know, oh, okay, I'm doing this. What is not meant to be part of this? Not what is meant to be part of it. You know, what is not meant to be part of it? Then let's bring that in. You know, and so to clarify it a bit, they talked about postmodernism a lot in relation to architecture. And that's when you sort of saw like a B&Q prefab with some Roman pillars outside it. You know, the Roman pillars are not meant to be there. I mean, I didn't personally, there is some architecture that I don't really like, but, you know, this sort of open-mindedness, you know, this, which then comes into a sort of sense of integration, you know, kind of inclusiveness, you know, so that inclusiveness can be a personal thing as well. That relates to, you know, including ideas from different cultures, not excluding, you know, which is in our, in this day and age, a rather important thing, to not start sort of saying you're excluded because you're that. You can't come because you're not allowed in here because you're the wrong religion. You're not allowed in here because you're the wrong race. You're not allowed in here because you're the wrong age. You're the wrong sex. You're the wrong sexual, you know, persuasion. You know, so it's like understanding how to be open-minded and how to combine different influences will probably be a positive part of your creativity, I reckon. And just to sort of finish, coming back to to come back to just your sort of your as I get a bit older, you know, your personal sort of balance and sort of whether you're having fun, the playfulness of it, you know, whether it's making you feel good, you know, these things, and sort of thinking about what kinds of creativity and ambitions will make you feel personally rewarded. Those are possibly good things to put energy into. Otherwise, you might end up really good at doing something that you don't enjoy, which would be not fun.
And not you.
And then and probably most of the time you wouldn't be as good at it, you know, because a lot of the people you see doing really well clearly are really, really into it. And so, you know, taking some time to look around and think, you know, who do I admire? You know, who is really good? Who would I like to be? How could I get there? You know, then when you do sort of end up getting there, you're more likely to be enjoying yourself. And, yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jake Nava.